Welcome back everyone to another video from Freight Master Resources. Uh, Today's topic, finding more freight shipper leads. Um, Now, freight shipper leads are virtually everywhere. Um, Again, it's another very common question among new freight agents or freight brokers. Coming in, they've just kind of got things kind of going on all over the place. Maybe you just finished training, and you're kind of wondering, well, where do I go? Where do I find shippers? How do I know? Well, there's lots of resources out there as far as where you can find shippers. Um, I will say not all shippers are created equally, um, and by that I mean several different things. Some shippers are seasonal. Um, some shippers don't ship very often. Some shippers just they work with 20 other brokers and they'll throw their freight out for bid, and cheapest rate gets it. And that's really not the kind of shipper that you want to work with. And you don't always know that sometimes until after you kind of get set up with them and you start to receive their load list. You also want to look at their days to pay. Are they on a 15-day pay, a 30-day pay? Are they paying in 45 days, 60 days? I've even heard of some shippers paying every 90 days. Um, you know, so preferably you want that shipper that pays in 15 to 30 days. You know, uh, but anywho, there are, like I said, a wealth of freight shippers across the U.S. Um, you can search out directories. Um, if you're new to freight brokering and maybe you just finished training, like I mentioned, and not really knowing where to start, first thing I would suggest, and I'll go over this in a future video as far as doing freight sales, but I would suggest starting off with a niche. And by that I mean, you know, maybe you want to focus on, flatbed, equipment and moving steel. Okay. As a new freight agent or a freight broker, when you cold call a prospect, they're a lot of times they're going to know that you're new. I mean, unless you're really great at sales, um, but for your average person coming in without a sales background, they're going to know that you're new. But by having a niche and focusing on that niche, maybe it's, steel coil, let's just say, for instance, so you're going to be contacting, you know, um, customers that ship steel coil. And once you get that first customer, and you start moving some of those loads, then the next customer that you call, that ships steel coil, you can talk to them a lot more intelligently. You've got experience moving, steel coil. Okay, so and like I said, that's just one example of many. It might be refrigerated, maybe it's produce. um, it could be auto parts, it could be anything, whatever it is. But that's my suggestion. And then once you kind of get that down, then I would suggest maybe starting to kind of if you want to. Some people don't, but if you decided that you want to, maybe expand a little bit, broaden your portfolio a little bit, maybe, move into some dry van freight or reefer freight, and that kind of thing. But become as much of an expert on a certain type of freight, a certain type of equipment, and things like that before you kind of run all over and, anybody, please give me some freight, kind of a thing. Um, Now, there again, like I mentioned before, lots of resources out there. There's lots of directories you can look up. U.S. steel directories, for instance. We were talking about coil. Another thing that you can do if you don't want to run around and, hunt and peck a bunch of different directories and things like this is go to freightbrokerresources.com. Um, got here, and purchase this list. It's on sale right now for $50. You're going to end up with over 100,000 shipper leads. Okay. Now this is going to come, pretty much with complete contact information. It's going to have the company name, their address, what city and state they're out of, zip code, obviously, their phone number, SIC code. Um, Oftentimes there's a contact name there, fax number, the products that they ship or product, their website, email, all kinds of information, that normally, when you go to a directory, and you find, let's just say steel coil out of Pittsburgh or something, you find a company there, but then, you're out of a directory, but then a lot of times, you don't have the contact name, you don't, so you end up doing a lot of additional legwork, um, you know, hunting down the rest of that information, and again, when I kind of get into a future video, we'll discuss ways of, finding that contact, and things like that. But if you kind of, I don't know, want to take a shortcut, for lack of a better word, and, want this, it's all broken down state by state, so it'll come to you in a zip file. I've personally used it, but there's literally over 100,000 leads. If you can't pick up customers out of this list, and essentially once you move your first load, it pays for the list, so, um, so yeah, a really great resource right there. Um, and of course, like I said, there's all kinds of other directories out there. You can go to ThomasNet, you can, Manta, which I'm not really a big fan of, but that's out there. USDA. You can go to your Chamber of Commerce website and look up shippers. You know, what we can get into, looking in your pantry. Maybe you want to move canned goods, things that we buy every day, you kind of flip that around, that packaging around. A lot of times, that company contact information, everything's right on the back there. But again, it's only part of the information. And that's where, this directory listing, through Freight Broker Resources really kind of comes in handy, you know. So definitely worth checking out. Um, and I'll leave the link in the description. Okay. Another thing that I would advise is to get yourself into some social media groups, and like for instance, we've got Freight Brokers and Carriers Network group, really great group, uber friendly, or super friendly, and if you're you've got your authority, if you're a freight broker, and not a freight agent, or maybe you're a freight agent and your broker doesn't provide load boards, there's some promo codes here for carriers and for brokers. For DAT, hands down the #1 load board out there. And again, I will leave that promo code for you to get your 15 days free in the description as well. So yeah, definitely check that out. Again, get yourself associated with some social media, some Facebook groups like this one here, hovering a little over 14,000 members there, 14,500 members. You can ask questions. People have been more than happy to help answer them. You know, um, that's what it's all about. Networking. Getting advice and helping each other. That's the whole reason why the group was created. And yeah, really another really great resource there. Um, you know, so yeah. check it out, guys. Freight Broker Shippers List at freightbrokerresources.com. Again, leaving that link down there. Check it out. And also, like I said, get yourself signed up. It's free on Facebook to get set up there. All right. Have a good weekend, guys, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.